Hey everyone, making this video to show an issue that I was having with some rigs, and a problem that was way too hard to fix in Maya, but I finally did figure out how to do it. So I'm going to step through my process here. Basically, the issue is that I have a ton of individual skinned mesh pieces on this model. So I have 7 individual pieces of mesh, all that are individually rigged, meaning when I bring them into Unity, it's creating 7 different skinned mesh renderers, which are, it's really unoptimized. The other problem is each of these pieces of mesh has like different scales on them, like the body's at 1, the head's at 2.54, the arms are at 2.54, the tail's at 1, it's just all over the place for some reason. I honestly don't know how I screwed it up that bad when I ripped it, but here we are. So it's time to fix it. So the first thing I'm going to do, I've got these under a group, I'm just going to pull them out. I don't really need to do that. And then also my scale was wrong in game, so I'm going to scale the bones up by 100. That'll also scale the skin because it is rigged after all. And I'll just drag this upwards so that the foot bones are sitting on the floor for the most part. Good enough. Alright, now on just the bones I'm going to hit modify freeze transformations. Ah, yes, okay. It's a skeleton with bones attached. You can't freeze them yet, so this is going to have transforms on it. That's fine. All these do too. This is the messy rig. We're going to make a duplicate, and we're going to fix it. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to select all of our meshes and our bones, duplicate it. So now we have our duplicate stuff, and we've got our hips. Neat. Alright, so the first thing I need to do, I'm going to hide the original set of things here. So what I'm looking at here is just the duplicate. I also cannot select joints because I disabled that. Okay, but just to show you, this is no longer rigged. It has lost all of its history and construction history. It's not a bound mesh anymore. It is just a mesh that lines up with the old mesh that was rigged, and it's a copy of the bones that are also separate. So what we need to do first off, I'm going to grab all of these meshes. I'm actually going to unlock them just because they don't need to be locked, and apparently that doesn't work. There it goes. Okay. And then we're going to do, going to go to modeling here, mesh, combine. Okay, so I've now merged all of these, and I'm going to go ahead and just name this body. And we don't need all the construction history on this. Like I said, it is still remembering that it used to be a bunch of separate objects. We don't need that, so I'm going to select our new body, delete by type, history. And now you can see these don't have like the little plus sign next to them. These are completely unlinked. They're just transforms at this point. It's like having a locator with nothing visible. So we're just going to delete those. They have no bearing on anything right now, so they're gone. Alright, so we got the bones, we got the body. And these bones are not bound to anything, so I should be able to freeze transforms on these. Yep, there we go. Nice and frozen. And you can see as soon as I did that, the radius of the bones changed, just because now they're actually just showing at a 1-to-1 scale of what they should have been. They aren't scaled up tiny bones, they're just bones that are positioned where they are, if that makes sense. So we're going to go display, joint size. I'm just going to bump this up by 10 or 10 times just so I can, kind of make out the shape of them. Doesn't matter, but okay, so we have a body with no transforms, no history. We have hips with, well, it's still got the Y transform. The position you're never going to be able to bake out of a bone, and that's actually fine because it needs to be up in the air. If I was really picky, I should probably put a root bone down here, but I'm going to ignore that. So I know VRChat and Unity, like usually you wind up with a locator down there that everything's under. I mean, I could do that if we really want to try and match how things are typically done. There we go. We have a locator, and under that we've got our hips. Sure, we'll go with that. We'll say that that's the way this should be done. Although my locator down there is practically invisible, but it's a thing. Anyway, we've got all this sort of stuff. We've got our old mesh, we've got our bones. So let me unhide the old mesh. You can see these bones are now displaying way bigger because they were already scaled up, and then I just bumped up the size, but that doesn't matter. Okay, so what you want to do, you want to select all of your old rigged meshes, And by the way, this works if you're like merging verts or like smoothing normals and all that sort of stuff that it usually won't let you do on a rig, or at least it won't let you delete the history when you do it. This process should work for that. Any mesh changes that you need to do, apart from like straight up changing the position, and even that should work if you have UVs that are not overlapping and are in a good position. I'll show you some of the different settings on the copy weights option here. Anyway, I'm going to select all of these first, and then I'm going to control click the one that I'm copying to, which is our new mesh. I'm going to go to the rigging category here for the top menu bar, skin, copy skin weights. We're going to go to the option box. I recommend resetting your settings anytime you're doing something like this or following a tutorial, just so you know you've got the same settings as them. So there's a couple different options here. Closest point on surface is basically just going to be hey, here's the point on the old mesh. Let's look at the new mesh. Well, this is the closest point to that old point, and it copies the weights from that to that. Raycast. Raycast should actually work like if you fattened something up or kind of shrunk something. Like if you've just slightly moved your vertices away from where they were, Raycast might work for you. That's basically going to shoot out a ray from the old original mesh, and whatever the first point it is that it can hit is what it's going to copy the weights to. Closest component, I'm assuming that's the same as this. I don't know. Closest point on surface, closest component, I don't know. Those are both about the same as far as I can tell. Point on surface might only allow them to have transformed on the surface. This is going to be, I guess, in 3D space maybe. Anyway, and then lastly you have UV space. So if you've UV'd something, and like I said, it's got no overlapping UVs is important. So no mirrored UVs, no overlapping. You can use this even if your topology completely changes, as long as it's still, you know, a vertex is still in the same spot on that UV map, then it'll still copy the UVs properly. So this would be kind of close to their export weight maps option, because that uses UVs as well, but it's actually exporting the weights to a texture, so you really don't get much fidelity there, but it's an option. Anyway, we're going to do closest point on surface. That's the default, and it's worked for me last time. My two meshes are literally identical, so it should be not an issue. So we just hit copy. Must select a surface, destination surface with the skin. Okay, so what happened here, I forgot one kind of important step, and that is that, let me hide the old one again. This does have to be bound to these bones. Like, you have to already have a bind on it, even if it's a like shitty default one. They have to be bound. Right now they're not. So this isn't a skin to mesh yet. So let me just real quickly do that. So I'll just select the mesh and or the new mesh and the new bones. Skin, bind skin. You might just make sure that you reset settings on that too in the option box. But there we go. So now this should all work. So I'm going to select all these. Select our new copy. Do skin. Copy skin weights. Closest point on surface, whatever, this is all good. Copy, and now you can see it actually went through. So our old rig is completely hidden, so we're just working with the new one, and you can see now we've got all of our proper rigging, and it maintained all that like nice rigidness of this rig. Like, I would have run it through Mixamo years ago if it didn't completely destroy everything that makes it look like a robot. Yeah, kind of a weird rig, to be honest. They've got like finger joints that have no purpose, things like that. Anyway, but this is the rig directly ripped from Altspace. But yeah, there you go. So we now have a working, no transforms or scaling or weirdness rig. It's got the, let me just rename this to Armature, because that's kind of the typical naming for things from like Blender and Unity, like Human IK and like Mixamo style rigs. They all typically have this armature under them, or locator named armature. So that's sort of like your root transform, and then everything else is off of that. But yeah, so there you go. Hopefully this has helped someone out who's having a similar issue. Like I said, or maybe I didn't in this try of the video, but that will work if you're doing like smoothing normals, merging verts, all that sort of stuff. And the different options in the copy weights tool can help you get over some other issues, like if you've actually changed the topology and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, leave them in the video, and leave them in the comments. See ya.